Welcome to WiseTake.com. This is CK013 bringing you another NBA DFS podcast. It's Monday, January 9th, 2017. Hope you enjoyed your weekend. I know I did. We had a little bit of snow on the East Coast, so we decided to stay in and kind of relax all weekend. I personally watched a bunch of sports, watched some football, watched some NBA. It's a good weekend for me. As far as the slates over the weekend, I had been on a crazy losing streak over the last 4 days prior to Sunday. I don't know what it was. I just even in my cash games, it just seemed like I just couldn't score enough. Even when I passed 300, I still wouldn't cash in 50-50s. It was rough, and I was getting really frustrated. Luckily for me, yesterday I was able to cash in both of my both slates, both NBA slates. I did the early slate and the later slate, the main slate. And I was finally able to cash in both slates as far as my cash games go. I won most of my head-to-heads. I won all my 50-50s. So I was definitely pleased. But it's interesting how sometimes you can kind of tailspin into these losing streaks. And one thing that is important now, even the best players can get themselves into losing streaks. I know Sahil over at RotoQL, one of the top players in the world, admitted to having losing streaks every now and again, some as long as 10 days. I know even at the Roto Grinders, I know Bobby Fi had mentioned that he had been on a little losing streak for a couple of days. So it happens to the best of us. And when it happens, sometimes you almost feel like you forget how to make a winning lineup. And sometimes you gotta know that it's not always you. Sometimes it's just bad beats. Sometimes you just get unlucky. We're all attracted to certain matchups as soon as we look here. Now, the way you think is going to determine the way your roster is constructed, obviously. So if you're stuck in a certain thinking pattern, and that thinking pattern is a losing pattern, not permanently, it could be temporarily, it could be a week or so, you're going to obviously lose. So when you're on a losing streak, it's important not to chase, first of all. You don't want to blow your entire bankroll chasing your losses. You definitely want to scale back until you turn it around. And it doesn't hurt in the lineups you do play to change up your strategy a little bit. Try something different. If what you're trying isn't working for whatever reason, try something different. Perhaps later on, things will correct itself and you can go back to the way that you were winning prior. But if it's been a few days and you're still losing and you can't figure out why you're losing, you got to change things up. Sometimes that's the only way to adapt. It's all about adapting. The NBA world, the DFS gods, if you will, they're not going to change a game plan or a strategy to help one specific person. The way the world works is you have to adapt to the world. You know, we hear all this talk about millennials and the way they are with technology and how technology is ruining them. There's nothing we can do to stop that. You're not going to give technology to people and then take it away. It's just not going to happen, especially not in a government that's based off making as much profits as you can. There's no way. In this country, and I love this country. My father I grew up on Army base. I was a military brat. Loved the military. Grew up on all kinds of bases all over the world. So this is not an anti-military rant. This is simply just me saying that the way our country is designed, through capitalism, through democracy, it's make as much money as you can. And in that kind of world, you're not going to take away things like technology or new toys or new games or new phones or iPhones. You're not going to take that away. And so as parents, what you can do to correct this issue is simply to adapt. As somebody who's moved around as much as I have, I went to 4 high schools, I went to 2 middle schools, I went to 3 elementary schools. And no matter where I moved, I'm not talking like moving counties or moving towns. I've moved states. I've lived in New York, Texas, Georgia, Germany. And no matter where you go, it's the same. The world is not going to adapt to one person. I knew the world wasn't going to adapt to me. It was up to me to adapt to the rest of the world, wherever I was, adapt to that area, if I wanted to find any sort of social happiness or comfort. And it's the same thing in DFS. I know it was a little rant, but we only have 3 games, so I figured I'd add some time here. And it's the same thing in the DFS community. If it's not working, if something isn't working, if something is different, if everything you are doing every day is the same, yet your results are different, it might be time to adapt. It's the same thing with players who go hot and cold. In the beginning of the season, we saw DeMar DeRozan lighting it up every night. It seemed like he was almost guaranteed to put up 50. But eventually, the world sought balance, and we saw DeRozan kind of sink down to where most people, I think, expected him. So it happens. There's ups and downs for DFS players. There's ups and downs for NBA players and any other professional athlete. But the key both for if an NBA team is on a losing streak, they need to try to adapt. They need to change. Something's not working, and they will. You'll see changes in the rotation. You'll see changes in minutes. You see all kinds of changes. It's the same thing in DFS. If you're not winning, if you're struggling, if you're on a losing streak like I was, you got to do something different. Think differently. If I'm using a balanced approach and it's simply not working, maybe I'll try some stars and scrubs then, see if that works. If those are the guys that are beating me, I'll try what they're doing until I lose. But most importantly, aside from the adapting, if you were to do nothing, I think eventually you'd go back to winning if you were winning previously, or at least I think life is about balance. So I think eventually it would balance out. But during that span, if you're not going to change the way you think and you're just going to hold on to your strategy and hope that it comes back around, you got to go light. You got to scale it back. Because you're throwing away all your profits that you've built up when you were winning, chasing this losing streak. It's funny because people can take a week to build up their bankroll, and they can lose it in 2 days if they're undisciplined. 1 day, really, if they're undisciplined. So don't chase. And that's not just in DFS. That's any kind of gambling you may do. Any kind of, don't chase. If you're losing, it may not be your night. Accept that. Accept it. Don't be in denial and think, oh, it can't be me. It's just a fluke, or this guy got lucky, or I got unlucky. If you get unlucky, it may not be just 1 day. It may last for a little while. So scale back. Go easy. It's okay. DFS ain't going anywhere. It'll be back tomorrow. And if not, it'll be back next year. So I don't think there's any reason to overreact to a losing streak. It happens to the best of us. I assure you, it happens to everybody. I mean, you got to think, even these quote-unquote professionals in the DFS world, even they only win 56 to 60%. What really differentiates them from the other people, because I think there are a significant amount of people who don't make this off a living who are pretty good at it. The difference is understanding money management, understanding risk and risk tolerance. But that's a whole other ball game. I'm simply here to tell you, if you're not winning, there's a couple things you need to do. Number 1, it's scale back. Definitely scale back. Do not chase. That's the number 1 rule. Number 2, adapt. Try to look at what's going on. That's why I do those lineup review shows every once in a while, because I like to look at these lineups. I don't do a show every time. It's a significant amount of work on the computer, but I always review the winning lineups anyway. I want to see what worked. I do it in cash to see what everybody else was doing. I want to see what the field was doing. I want to see what I did. I wanted to see where me and the winning lineup disagreed or agreed, and it kind of gives you an idea of how your train of thought is. Are you on pace to continue to do well? Are you not making any progress? Are your lineups getting worse and worse? It's important to know these things. It's important to track. It's important to track what games you're playing. Are you playing 50-50s, double-ups, head-to-heads, GPPs? What's your return on investment on each? You got to know where your strengths and your weaknesses are. There's so many people who are maybe good cash game players, but because they fantasize about winning that $100,000 top prize, they'll chase GPPs all day. What's the point of winning your cash games if you're going to throw all the money away in GPPs? So know your strengths. And there are some people like myself who are better GPP players and cash game players. I know be careful with cash because I'm not as good as in GPPs. Now, don't get me wrong. There's a hot topic of a big hot topic that a lot of people believe and have been told is that to be profitable in the long run, you have to play cash games because they are far more profitable for the average person than GPPs. And that is correct. I mean, if you think about it from this perspective, if I'm telling you, out of 100 people, all you have to do is score in the top 50% to get paid. It's probably more profitable than telling you out of 100 people, you got to finish in the top 12 to get paid, but your prizes are higher. But now, instead of competing against really 50 people to get the same prize, now you're competing against, 80 plus. 88 to be exact. So it's different, and I understand the logic. I understand people saying you have to play cash games, and that's why, even though I enjoy GPPs more, I still play cash games. And I do my best. I do the best I can. Now, I don't necessarily go into, obviously I take safer plays in cash, but I don't necessarily like to, everybody's on this guy, so I have to take this guy. I've seen a lot of people. I'm going to put out, if I'm risking in cash, I'm probably risking more on that lineup than any other lineup. I play one cash lineup. I play multiple GPP lineup. I play one cash lineup. So if that cash lineup loses, I'm going to lose a significant amount of the money I risked that night. So my cash game, I don't care if it's chalky, not chalky. I'm putting out my best lineup. I'm looking at my numbers. I'm putting out my best lineup, playing my best value plays. And if it don't work, it don't work. And in GPPs, I try to hedge that strategy. In case I don't do good in the cash games, maybe one of my GPP lineups can take advantage of that and excel. So anyway, that's just a quick rant. I'm going to go ahead and try to tackle the games here. I know you may have been looking forward to a short podcast, but this won't be long. There's 3 games tonight. So it's an interesting night. The 3 teams that are playing, we have New Orleans at New York, and I forgot to pull up. Shame on me. I forgot to pull up my DVP chart. How about that? So I'm sorry, not my DVP chart, my odds chart. How about that? I'm gonna go ahead and get that pulled up so we can go over the odds for tonight's slate. Just waiting for it to load up here. There we go. Tools, NBA odds chart. That's on WiseTake.com for those of you who haven't seen it yet. If you need a quick place just to reference for odds, just to get a general idea of what Vegas thinks the game's going to go, we got those for free on there on WiseTake.com. So go ahead and check it out. You don't have to be a member to view the NBA odds chart. Anybody can view it, but you do got to be a member to see the projections. So anyway, first game, New Orleans at New York. Game starts at 7:30. Total is 215, and New York is favored by 4 at home. This one's pretty good. I thought this was a pretty interesting game. These 2 teams, I believe they've played already once, I want to say. And I am going to look at, they played on December 30th. And Anthony Davis is obviously the hot, I'm sure he's the big take in the Knicks and New Orleans game if you factor out the other games. So Anthony Davis is coming off a very good game against Boston on January 7th. He played 38 minutes, 36 points, 15 rebounds. He scored 48 FanDuel points, and that was the first time that he broke 50 since putting up 62.9 in Miami back on December 23rd. So, no, I'm sorry. He broke 50 against Dallas on December 26th, the day after Christmas. He got 51.2. So then he went 4 games without breaking 50. And then on that 5th game against Boston, he finally broke 50, fell just short of 60 at a monster game. Today he goes against the Knicks, and I'm sure people's eyes lit up when they saw Anthony Davis against the Knicks. Last time he played the Knicks, he wasn't so impressive. 46.6 FanDuel points. Not bad by any stretch, but at his salary of over 11, you're hoping for 60. You're hoping that he puts up at least 50. Come on, right? At least 50. So I think the Knicks have obviously struggled against big men this season. They're among the worst. Joakim Noah has been playing better, but I think it depends on his minutes. I think he's clearly the better defender between the other centers on the Knicks, and it's a matter of if he gets his minutes. We saw him getting minutes, and it was working, and then all of a sudden, the last couple of games, he kind of just hasn't been. But we'll talk about the Knicks. Let's start off with New Orleans. Let's try to get some organization here. So Anthony Davis, obviously the best play from New Orleans as far as raw projection. I mean, what can you really say about the guy? He's a monster. I don't really know if anybody can keep up. The only person who is similar as far as overall play style is Porzingis. But Porzingis, despite his blocks and steals, he's not very good defensively. So I do see Anthony Davis as a matchup problem here. And raw projection, he's projected for 52.81. He needs 61.05 to hit salary. So I don't know. That's tough. He's got a good matchup, and this is one of the higher total games on the slate. So I don't want to shy away from this game. But there's a certain point guard that I know I'm going to want. So if I can't do a stars and scrub approach, I'm going to have to decide, do I want Anthony Davis or Russell Westbrook? And now I think on paper, people might look at Anthony Davis's matchup. They might think it's better, but I don't know. Maybe they think it's better for OKC at Chicago. But the total is good here. So if I'm going to take people from New Orleans, my favorite play is obviously, I don't know if I'm going to take who, but obviously Anthony Davis is in a pretty good spot here. Drew Holiday is interesting. He kind of disappointed me in the last contest against Boston. He had a very good matchup against Isaiah Thomas, and before that he had a very good matchup against Dennis Schroeder. So he played two of the worst defensive point guards in the league, and he failed to break 30 in both games. So he seems like something's not right. Something is off here. His assists are down. His rebounds are, well, he's never really been a rebounder, but even they're down, and his points are down. So interestingly enough, there's something going on with Holiday over there. I don't know what it is. Maybe it's fatigue. I don't know. But I don't think I'm going to be too big on Holiday today against Derrick Rose, who has, for some reason, been pretty good against defending point guards this year. I don't know if it's him necessarily. Maybe it's just the system. That could be it. But either way, I don't really like Holiday in this spot. Shooting guard is very interesting. The Knicks have struggled against shooting guards all year. And last time these guys played, I was big on Langston Galloway revenge game. I really thought he'd come in there and, go at the Knicks. He played 21 minutes, and he only put up 6 points. He had 2 rebounds, an assist, 8.9 fantasy points. So he wasn't exactly the stud. Now, he is coming off a pretty good game against Boston where he played 22 minutes. He got 20 points, and he put up 26.3 total FanDuel points. So at 3,700, I think he's an option. He's very cheap. Problem is minutes, like anything else. Like you want him to play those minutes. Can you put him in cash? I don't know, because he doesn't get the minutes. I think in cash games, the way to go for me today, and shooting guard, when we look at the shooting guard overall, it's not good. You got Dwayne Wade, Zach LaVine against Dallas, Dwayne Wade against Oklahoma City, Victor Oladipo against Chicago. So outside of those three guys, it gets pretty ugly. We got Wesley Matthews against Zach LaVine, Tyreek Evans. Tyreek Evans would be a monster play if he was getting his minutes. If he was getting his minutes, I would throw him in there all day. But he played 20 minutes for the first time against Boston, and now they're playing. They had a day off. Now they're coming at it. I don't know how many minutes he's going to get. If he had full clearance for minutes in this game, I'd be all over him. But because he doesn't, I don't know if I could take that chance. Definitely not in cash. And maybe in GPPs I can take a shot. Just hoping maybe he gets because, he has the capabilities. Look, if you look at what he's done with little minutes, let's see, back on the 28th against the Clippers, the 20th of December, he played 16 minutes and still got 24.5 FanDuel points. Against Miami on December 23rd, he played 15 minutes and got 21.5 FanDuel points. So he's got it in him, obviously, to have these games. And when he gets full minutes, he's going to have monster upside, especially in good matchups. If he was playing full minutes, I think this is one of those spots where he would crush. Courtney Lee would be trying to defend him. I don't see that going well. Jennings or Holiday trying to defend him. I don't see that going well. But he's not getting the minutes. So I think if you're going to try to punt at shooting guard, which is perfectly, I think, reasonable considering how thin it is, I think Buddy Hield is the guy you want in cash. And that's nothing, against Galloway. It's just a matter of Hield getting minutes. Against Boston, he played 24. That was on the low end. Against Atlanta and Cleveland, in his previous two games, he played 31 and 35. So they will give him minutes more so than a Galloway, more so than an Evans. So I think if you want somebody from this game, and I can understand you wanting a shooting guard from this game. The Knicks are one of the worst teams against shooting guards, or at least they were earlier in the season. That might have changed, but they're still not good. Courtney Lee is not a very good defender. So I'll take Buddy Hield for the cash games. If I move on to the New Orleans small forwards, nobody I really like here. They're matching up against Carmelo, Solomon Hill, Dante Cunningham. I mean, for defensive purposes, they're going to get minutes to try to defend. Maybe, I don't know. Not interested. I mean, don't get me wrong, small forward's also pretty tough. I think Melo is going to be the chalky small forward, rightfully so. He's a little expensive, but he's got the best matchup. We got New Orleans has struggled to defend the small forward position. Melo is obviously an elite scorer, and he's coming off a rough game against Indiana. He only put up 26.7 FanDuel points, but he only played 27 minutes, so we got a little bit of that rest. Now, the only thing to keep in mind is I know he's nursing a sore shoulder. Earlier in the year when he had his day off when they were on the West Coast, I know he missed a game and it was for rest, but I know that he was having difficulty with that shoulder. So for whatever reason, maybe he's chucking up too much shots. Probably that's probably what it is. He's getting older and he's chucking up too many shots. But yeah, keep an eye on that. It's not a matter. I think he'll play. I mean, maybe he won't, but I haven't heard anything that he won't play, so I think he'll play. But keep an eye because a lot of times with these kind of issues, it affects their play, especially a jump shooter like Carmelo. Carmelo is not like, he's not going to take it to the hole every time. He will take it to the hole, but he relies primarily on jump shooting. So if he's got a bad shoulder, it's not good. So keep that in mind. And I think, let me see, Anthony Davis we talked about. Terrence Jones is an interesting GPP play. GPP only. The Knicks aren't very good against power forwards. But Terrence Jones has that upside. He's flashed it. He's only 4,400, and he can get you 31. So it's possible. He's done it a couple times before. I wouldn't put him in cash because you can see against Boston 7.2 FanDuel points in 16 minutes. He can dud. It's not hard for him to dud. So definitely not in cash. But in GPPs, he's worth a shot, or at least consideration. As far as centers for New Orleans, Omar Asik, 3,500. Big fat no thank you. So for me, it's probably going to be maybe Anthony Davis if I decide to go that route. Maybe Buddy Hield in cash, maybe Langston Galloway in GPPs, but there's not too much I like here. I don't know if I can mess with Holiday because there's a guy on this slate that we're going to talk about next that I really want, and Holiday's the next most expensive point guard on the slate, and I don't like his matchup. So anyway, we'll talk about the Knicks side. Derrick Rose, I'm not too crazy about him. We've also seen a reduced role. He's failed to break 30 since putting up 41.5 against Houston in his last 4 contests. He's got 22.9, 25.4, 21.6, 24.6. Those are his FanDuel points in the last 4 games. So I think I'm all for Rose. Holiday's a decent defender himself. One thing I forgot to mention, Holiday's going to be playing his brother. Yeah, that's right. Drew Holiday, Justin Holiday. Justin Holiday is the backup shooting guard for the Knicks. He gets a chance to play his brother. That makes me think, I wonder how he did. Well, let's see how Holiday did against the Knicks last time. I don't know why I didn't check that. Last time Holiday played the Knicks, he did very well. Wow. 38.3 FanDuel points. So, Holiday, I still wouldn't put him in cash against Rose. But in GPPs, you got to take it, you might have to take a chance here. He did very good against the Knicks last time. And to be honest, I didn't mention it before, but I think Rose's defense has been trending down. I've noticed more and more point guards lately have been putting up some points. So that's interesting. The last time Rose played New Orleans, 25.9 FanDuel points. So a very different outcome. But again, I think I'm still off a Holiday. But let me check on Justin Holiday. I just want to see how he did against his brother. Let me see. He had a good game. He had a little stretch of good game. He was getting minutes. He has not been getting any minutes lately. 8 minutes against Indiana, 8 against Milwaukee, 10 against Milwaukee, 14 against Orlando. He has not been playing. I mean, wow. During that 3-game span where he was breaking 20, 26.6, 24.4, 27.2, he was playing 34 minutes against Atlanta, 28 against New Orleans, 30 against Houston. What happened? I don't know what he did wrong, but he is not getting any PT. So I don't know. If you want to play the narrative GPP dart and you think maybe Hornacek will suddenly give him minutes, be my guest. I don't think I'm going to be on that. So for me, of the 2 Holidays, it's Drew, which I would only play in GPPs, or none. I don't like any of the shooting guards. I don't like Courtney Lee. I mean, if you want a cash game play that, a guy that's reliable for minutes, Courtney Lee's been okay. 18.3 in his last game, 20.9 before that, 21.9 before that. So he's been okay. Since coming back from injury, the lowest score he's gotten is 17.6. He's 4,100, so he's cheap. It's still not the production you want. You'd like to see a little more, but not a lot of upside with Courtney Lee. Definitely a cash game kind of guy. So if you really need to save, only if you really need to save. Now, I can see people going with like Anthony Davis and Westbrook, and then you got to punt a little bit. So Lee's an interesting punt option with Buddy Hield. They're both at 41. But small forward, we talked about Melo. I think he's going to be super chalky. That's just my opinion. I don't know for sure, but he's in the best matchup. Butler's going to have Roberson. Barnes is going to have Wiggins. Wiggins is going to have Barnes. So I think Melo's in the best matchup on paper, which makes me think he's going to be super chalky. Then again, we have Westbrook and Davis, and if you take two of those guys, it's going to be tough to fit Melo in there. So we'll see what the value looks like. But Melo in cash games, to me, might be a way to go here. Not shying down, but for GPPs, it might be a good idea to fade him. I don't know. You got to feel the ownership. I like taking Melo because, when the game's on the line, he's the guy they typically go to. So definitely in play, but you'll have to get a feel for the slate. See if you think people will be on him. See if you think maybe it doesn't matter. Obviously, on these small slates, you can't always fade the chalk. Sometimes you can't fade the chalk. There is some chalk you have to fade, yeah. But sometimes, if you don't have that chalky guy, then you're taking yourself out of contention. So, real quick, I want to talk about Mendingas Kuzminskis. 3,600 on FanDuel. He's been getting a little more minutes. His minutes were very inconsistent previously, but after that New Orleans game, literally the day after they played New Orleans, he played 16 minutes against Houston, and now he's been in double-digit minutes ever since. And now in 3 of those games, he's actually put up double-digit FanDuel points. Against Milwaukee on January 4th, he had 26.3 FanDuel points. I mean, the guy, he's interesting. I don't know if I like him in this matchup, but I might. If he's going to keep getting those minutes, now 15 is not a lot. So you're obviously hoping for a bigger run. He splits time with Lance Thomas, I think, and a couple other dudes. But and while Melo's not on the court, which Melo typically plays a lot of minutes, so definitely a GPP only guy. I don't think I could trust him in cash. He seems to be on an every other game kind of pattern as far as production. But keep him in mind, because if there might be another small slate. I mean, this slate could be it. The slate is small enough to where somebody like him could get it done for you. I don't think I trust him in cash because his minutes are so low. But in GPPs at 3,600, if you can pay for him and it'll make you afford a couple other studs, it's interesting for GPPs. It's interesting. So there's another pump play I like better over there. We'll talk about that later. Porzingis. Porzingis is $100 cheaper than Melo, which I like. He's coming back from injury, and he did just play a back-to-back, and he played 30 minutes the first game, although he did foul out, and then 34 minutes against Indiana. So they're giving him minutes. They're not easing him. It's not it's not the 42 or 38 that we saw before, but they're giving him minutes. So it makes me feel like that Achilles must be feeling okay, because I know they were extra cautious with him. Porzingis wants to play. He's going to play. I think people will be on Melo, and on cash games, I probably will too. But in GPPs, I might fade Melo if I can find a couple small forwards to pair and go with Porzingis. New Orleans, people don't realize because Anthony Davis is on the team, but New Orleans struggles against power forwards specifically. Anthony Davis isn't the best defender. Porzingis is a pretty big dude himself. He's like 7'2" or something like that, I think. So I like Porzingis a lot in this game. Now he's a little inconsistent, especially coming back from injury, so that's why I wouldn't trust him in cash. But in GPPs, he's definitely interesting, and I think I like him because I don't think too many people are going to be able to afford to pay on him. Because hypothetically, if you were to take Anthony Davis, Russell Westbrook, you're on FanDuel, you're already what you have left, you're already down to 52.14, so 5,214. So if you throw Melo in there, who you might think you need, you're already down to 4,767 as your average cost per player after those 3. There's no way you're fitting Porzingis in this. Now, you can try, and then you're down to 41. But now you're looking at punting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 positions. 5 other players. So you took 4 more expensive guys, and now you're looking to punt. And not to mention, some guys might like Jimmy Butler today. They might like Barnes and Wiggins. So I think it's interesting. I don't know how how popular Porzingis will be. I think Melo will be very popular. I don't know how popular Porzingis will be. But in GPPs, if he's not going to be popular, and I'm going to try to gauge it like I always do to lock, if I don't think he's going to be popular, I'm going to have myself plenty of Porzingis and GPPs. As far as center goes, I think Noah's interesting. I think Noah's minutes have been down, and he played it back-to-back. And before that, he'd been playing heavy minutes. Like, I'm talking, like, heavier for more consistently than he's used to. So I'm wondering if they reduced his minutes just because of the back-to-back, because they could have used him. They were against Monroe. They were against Miles Turner. So they could have used him. They just didn't. So I don't know. It makes me wonder. Was it a precaution because it was a back-to-back? It was also a 3 and 4. So maybe that's why. Maybe because it was a 3 and 4. But I think Noah's interesting, and I would love to put him in cash. I'm just worried about his minutes, so I don't know. If I get the feel... Now, I think he might play minutes because he only played 20 in his last 2 contests, and they're going to need him against this, the Pelicans, who typically play pretty big between Davis and Asik. So I think he's interesting. I love to put him in cash. I just don't know if I can. I don't know if his minutes are secure. If I get any kind of hint that he's going to get the minutes run, I'll play him in all formats. So... we're going to move on to Oklahoma City at Chicago, 8 p.m. start time. Russell Westbrook is obviously the guy that steals the show here. Now, what I've been doing since Rondo got benched, I've been playing point guards against Michael Carter-Williams, and it's been working out pretty good. I played, what was it on Cleveland? McRae. I played McRae against him, who was dirt cheap, put up 30-something points. I thought that was cool. Last week, I forgot who played against. Oh, no, was it last week? Yeah, I think it was Friday, I think it was. I played Lowry against him. Lowry destroyed. But then again, Michael Carter-Williams only got 16 minutes. And that's the thing. If you're going to bench Rondo's not the best defender nowadays. Like, he used to be a lot better when he was younger. He's not the best, but he's still a better defender, in my opinion, than Michael Carter-Williams and Grant. So I'm going to continue to play point guards against the Bulls until they figure out that issue. So Westbrook, to me, is a must-play in all formats. It's supposed to be a close game. I know Jimmy Butler's in the game, so I don't think they'll throw Butler on Westbrook, but I think they may throw Butler on. They can throw him on Oladipo if he's running, but Wade's already going to be on him. Wade's not the best defender, but he's smart. He plays smart, so that'll be interesting. But I think Westbrook, I don't see who's going to stop Westbrook today, especially with Rondo not in the game. Not that Rondo could, but I love Westbrook. Let's see what he's been doing lately. He's been crushing lately. He's broke 65 in his last 3 contests, so he's been crushing. Against Denver, that was a 3 and 4, and he put up 69.9 FanDuel points. Before that, he scored 49 actual points against Houston. 65.1 FanDuel points. That was the back end of a back-to-back after scoring 33 points against Charlotte and playing 34 minutes and putting up 65 FanDuel points. Russell Westbrook is not from this planet. He's not from this planet. The things that he does in 3 and 4s and back-to-backs and still allows his team to be in a position for most of the game to win. They may not always win, but they're always in a position to possibly win. And that's just impressive. I mean, wow. I think that if Westbrook would have... Now, this could be a hot take. I might catch some flack for this. I honestly believe if Westbrook was to leave the Thunder, and it was Durant in this situation, I don't think the Thunder would be nearly as successful if it was just Durant. Westbrook is obviously proving that he means much more to this team than I think Durant ever did. And I'm not a Durant hater. I like Durant. I understand why he did it. Am I a little disappointed? Yeah, I would have liked to see him go to Washington and try to get see what him and Wall can do. I would have liked to have seen him gone somewhere that didn't need him. I don't think Golden State needed him, and I think that he just wanted a championship. I get it. He saw the guys like LeBron do it, and if LeBron does it, then it must be okay, right? But again, I'm not a Durant hater. He's a great player. I don't blame him. You want a championship? Go ahead, get a championship. Then I guess you can leave and go somewhere else. Plus, who doesn't want to live in California, right? But Westbrook, regardless, is a freak. Just a freak. So Westbrook, that's my Westbrook tirade. He'll be in all formats for me. I don't see a world on a 3-game slate where I'm fading Westbrook. As far as shooting guard for the Thunder, Oladipo's interesting. Now, he's a lot younger than Wade, so I think he gets a quickness advantage, but Wade has been around a long time, and he's pretty smart. So I don't mind Oladipo at 5,900. Like I said, shooting guard is extremely thin. So Oladipo definitely in play. Could be a cash game guy. You kind of know what you're going to get. The production primarily comes from him, Cantor, Adams, and Westbrook. So Westbrook, and then you kind of know where it's going after that. So now he's only broken 30 points once, so I don't know how, his upside hasn't been the greatest, but I think eventually he's going to take off. We saw him start off slow, and then he started ripping it. So don't ignore him. My only issue with Oladipo is I think if you're looking for value, small forward might be one of the better places to get it, at least in cash. But anyway, Jimmy Butler. Who's going to stop Jimmy Butler? I would imagine they would have to put Roberson on him, and Roberson is a pretty good defender. However, Jimmy Butler is not your average. He's not your average small forward. Jimmy Butler is also what you would consider to be a freak. He's pretty much matchup proof. I mean, he played against Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, who's another quote-unquote good defender. He scored 81.4 FanDuel points, 52 actual points. So I don't think he could be stopped. Now, Paul George did okay. Now, Paul George probably did the best against him as anybody all year. And he still allowed, Jimmy Butler still put up 36.7 FanDuel points on 25 points. So he's as close as matchup proof, I think, as you can get. He had one dud against Milwaukee, put up 25.4. That was just a dud, 7 points, 7 rebounds. I mean, what can you say about Butler? I think because of his price and because of his matchup, people may be off. Then again, people may just go straight to Westbrook Butler. But I think they're going to go Westbrook Davis. But if they do that, they're leaving the door wide open for Butler to have a big game. Everybody saw Roberson kind of contain Harden. They put Roberson in a Harden the last time Oklahoma City played the Rockets, and it worked. Harden was shut down for Harden. I shouldn't say he was shut down. He still put up 30-something FanDuel points. But for Harden, he prevented Harden from having a Harden game. So he's a good defender. I'm not taking anything away from him. But Jimmy Butler is a whole different kind of beast. So I don't know if I'd put Butler in cash because of that. Roberson is a good defender. You got to respect him. I wouldn't say it's necessarily super safe today. But in GPPs, Butler is worth an option. Definitely worth an option. And like I said, I think people are going to go to Melo. So if you can find a couple punts and you can fit in Butler, that might be the way to go. Taj Gibson, I don't know. I think Gibson's in a good spot just because I think he's going to have Sabonis on him for most of the game. And I'm not afraid of that. I think Gibson should be able to bully him up. Should be able to get some boards. And at 4,700, I don't think he's going to kill you. His price did creep up a little, but he's been a little inconsistent, and the same thing with him. You don't know how many minutes you're going to get from him. You don't know. Now, against Toronto, he played 20 minutes. I think that's because Toronto, they played kind of small. They didn't really have Patterson, so they decided to go smaller, and they really didn't. So, therefore, the Bulls didn't really need him. So Mirotic, I think, might have played a little more because Mirotic can double as a shooting guard. He's tall, and Mirotic is the guy that got the minutes. So Mirotic has been getting a lot of minutes lately. He's been playing well. Over 20 points in his last 3 straight games. FanDuel points, that is. And he's been playing, 26 minutes, 28 minutes, 26 minutes, 33 minutes. So he's definitely interesting. Now, as far as the center position, obviously Adams and Lopez are the two main centers. Cantor is an option aside from Adams. It seems like I don't like taking them together. I think to me it's always either Adams or Cantor. And this one's a tough one to figure out just because, Cantor's cheaper, so that's nicer. But Cantor's obviously, he comes with a lot more variance. So the easiest way for me to put it is typically Adams as more of the cash play, and Cantor is your GPP guy. It makes sense. It's all good. And I don't know which one I'm going to want in this one. Now, in a GPP, the way I think I would do it is put in Cantor with Westbrook because I'm hoping that they could, one dominates the first unit, one dominates the second. I can see Cantor typically gets a lot of assists from Westbrook, so that could go well. However, in cash games, Cantor's minutes are just so up in the air. He has not played more than 22 minutes in his last 4 games. He has not played 30 or more since playing Miami on December 27th. So Minutes is money in cash. Cantor does not have the minutes to make you that money. So you could take a chance. I would rather not. And GPP, sure, I'll take that chance. In cash, no. Now, Adams has been playing very well lately, and he's been getting a lot of minutes. Center is, let's just say it's not deep today. Karl Anthony Towns is far and away the best center playing. However, he's significantly more expensive, almost double the price of a guy like Adams. And so you got something to think about there. I think Towns at 9,200 and then Adams at 5,900. I don't think too many people will take Towns. I'll say that. So I think Adams, Noah, and Lopez are going to be the three guys people shuffle between. Man, that's tough to determine who you think people will be on. That's what I'm looking at right now, trying to ask myself. Who do I think people are going to be on? Now, I have a feeling that, let me see. Chicago has been bad against centers lately. So that makes me think maybe Adams will be popular. In cash games, Adams is probably the way to go. At 5,900, he's been playing well. So in cash games, I think I like Adams. In GPPs, I sort of like Noah. Lopez is extremely cheap, and he can get you the minutes. He hasn't had the upside. He's been playing terrible lately, let's be honest. He's been really bad. But he has the upside. He put up 38.3 FanDuel points against the Lakers once, 37.1 against Denver. So he has some upside. And I don't think he'll be too popular because he's been so bad. I think Adams is pretty much going to be the way everybody goes, because I think everybody's going to have Westbrook, and not too many people are going to take Towns. I think the pecking order, you want Westbrook. Now, this is just the public. This isn't necessarily a recommendation. This is what I think the public will be on. Westbrook, Anthony Towns, Carmelo Anthony. If not Melo, they'll pick Butler. And then Adams. Those are going to be like the core, I feel like. I feel like that's going to be the core right there. So I do envision Adams being very popular. And in cash games, I'll probably go with him because he seems like the safest. But in GPPs, I may take more chances with guys like Noah, maybe Lopez, maybe even a Karl Anthony Towns if I can find a way to fade one of these big guys. I mean, I'm not fading Westbrook. If I'm fading anybody, it's Davis. I'm not fading Westbrook. It's not happening. Davis and Melo, maybe. Westbrook, it's not happening. But going back to the Chicago side, Michael Carter-Williams, interesting. I would have liked him a lot more, but his last contest, only getting 16 minutes, really scares me off of him. 4,800, he'd be the perfect pairing. You know, a lot of people, including myself, like to take point guards from the same game. So it would be a perfect pairing. I just don't know if I could pull that trigger in cash because Carter-Williams coming off a game where he really didn't get run, and his defense is horrible. And if he struggles against Westbrook, they will pull him rather quickly. Now, remember, Chicago has two point guards on the bench that they can give some run to. They got Grant and they got Isaiah. Cannon? I'm not really sure. But Grant's been getting decent minutes, but nothing reliable. So it's interesting, but I don't know. Going back to the Bulls side, Wade. I do like Wade. I don't think Oladipo. I think Wade is far more experienced. I know he's more experienced, and he's Dwayne Wade. So I can see him having a good game. Only thing I'm concerned about is he's coming off a game where he played a lot of minutes, played 39 minutes. He did score 35.3 FanDuel points, which is great, but he played 39 minutes. Now, he did have a day off, but Wade's up there in age, so it's interesting to see. But I think Wade is in a decent spot. I like Wade. Levine's in a good spot. It's just a pace-down game. That's the only thing. I don't know why I'm talking about Levine. I'll talk about Levine next. I'm sorry. The small forward that I might like here, the punt option, Doug McDermott. I don't think I'm alone in that. I think people know that if you're going to punt at small forward, he's going to be your most popular option. He gets minutes, 38 against Toronto, 32 against Cleveland, 30 against Charlotte. So he's been getting the minutes. He's got a little bit of upside against Toronto. He put up 30.5, so he's got that upside. I used to love watching Dougie McDermott over in Creighton when he played for his pops. So he's in play. He's probably my favorite punt option. I don't know if too many people. I would imagine people are going to have to punt at least one of these positions. So in cash games, I think McDermott might be the way I go. Like I said, minutes is money, so he's the guy that I would want. All right, we're going to move on to Dallas and Minnesota. I know I kind of been bouncing around. I've been acting like I'm going to go team by team, and I've been kind of going position by position. So for this last game, I'm just going to keep it simple, and I'm just going to go position by position and just tell you who I like from either team. So I think that a lot less confusion should happen that way. You have 2 days off, and you come back all scrambled, only a 3-game slate. So for Dallas, Rubio and Williams are both in decent spots, but I'm concerned about the pace here. Minnesota and Dallas are both, well, Dallas especially. Dallas is a very slow-paced team. Minnesota is faster, but they're not exactly one of the fastest, considering how young they are. You would think they'd be a little faster, but I know Tibbs likes to keep the pace slower. He likes good defense, even though his team hasn't necessarily played that great of defense. He does like defense. So I'm not crazy about Williams or Rubio. They're cheap. So if you want to pair a cheap guy with Westbrook, you can go with one of these guys. They're only $300 apart. And Darren Williams, he's coming off a rough game in a great spot against Schroeder. He only put up 17.4 FanDuel points in 28 minutes. He struggled. So I think he'll bounce back. He does have a little variance, but for the most part, he's been a pretty consistent player around that 25 to 30 mark. So I think in cash games, that's what you could expect to get from him. I don't think Rubio's too much of a threat to slow him down. On the other side, Rubio is certainly in play. He's been a lot more inconsistent, and his floor is a lot lower than Williams, hence the $300 discount. But in GPPs, if you want to pivot off of Williams, if for some reason you think Williams will be popular, which he might be, people may have to pick one of these 2 point guards in order to, if they don't want to play Michael Carter Williams, they may have to take one of these guys in order to free up money for those bigger guys. So in GPPs, Rubio could be a nice pivot off of Williams if you think Williams is going to be chalky. I don't know yet. It's still early, but, something to keep in mind. Looking at shooting guard, LaVine's in a great spot. Now, Matthews is not in a good spot. I can see people taking Matthews because of his minutes, but for one, his production has been horrible. He hasn't broken 20 FanDuel points in his last 3 games, despite playing more than 30 minutes in all 3 games. So his production is horrid. I think he's way overpriced, personally. When everybody's healthy. When people were out, it was okay to pay this much. But now that people are back and healthy, especially Dirk, I don't want Wesley. LaVine is in a good spot. Dallas has struggled against shooting guards all year. LaVine has been pretty consistent. I think that he's going to be a popular cash game play today. But he hasn't been as consistent lately. He's had a few duds worked in there. I think Wiggins is kind of taken away. When Wiggins is in a good spot, he takes away some of those shots. But if you look at LaVine's log, after playing a good game against Utah, it's still going to be third game in 4 nights. Third game in 4 nights. So he played the 6th to 7th. He was off the 8th, and now the 9th he's playing again. So this is a 3 and 4, and sorry about that. Drop the mic. Not in a good way. Anyway, LaVine's the only shooting guard I like from this game. Well, Seth Curry maybe. I shouldn't say that. Seth Curry is a decent punt option. He's definitely a decent punt option. He's 3,900. His price dropped even lower, but his minutes, so not a cash game guy. So to me, in cash from this game, the only shooting guard I would like in cash is LaVine. Moving on to small forward. Like I said, this is a tough one. I love Harrison Barnes and Wiggins. Those are probably my 2 favorite small forwards to take because they're always in that mid-range and they always have upside. They always play minutes. These are 2 of my favorite guys to take in cash and in GPPs, and they're playing each other. They're both good defenders, and this one's going to be rough. They're both going to get the minutes. They're going to get the minutes, but they're going to be guarding each other. So I think an interesting way to go, I think they're both good enough to where I could see taking them both and just taking a chance. So in a GPP, I might play both of these. In cash games, I might play both of these guys. They're both cheap. They both play the minutes. I mean, worst case scenario, they put up 25 each. I think that's your worst case scenario. So I may be willing to take that chance to average out at small forward without punting too far. Again, it's going to depend on ownership. On paper, they're in bad matchups, but if that's going to scare people off, then I want all of them. But if people are going to rush to them because they feel like, oh, let's go back and forth and it's okay, then I don't want to stay away. You like that, right? Oh, I want to go back and forth. I want to stay away. Yeah. But yeah, I like Wiggins and Barnes both. I like them pretty much every time they play. So, it's tough. They're pretty consistent. So in my cash games, I may very well go with the 2 of them. If I don't want to punt, if I don't want to play Melo. But I don't know. We'll see. But I think they're in play. But keep in mind they're in tough matchups. Maybe better GPP plays. They do have the upside. So I don't know. Use your judgment. Gorgie Dang, 5,500. He's been pretty consistent lately. Usually a solid cash game player because he's a big guy on the boards. He's a big rebounder. He's fallen just short of double-doubles in his last 4 games. So this guy could double-double any night. He gets the minutes, 40 minutes his last 2 games. Definitely a guy I love to put in cash. His floor is around 23, 24. There was one game where he had 15, but that's pretty low. Usually he's around the 20s and maybe the 30s. Now, he doesn't have the upside that we want in GPPs. He's never going to get you 50, but he can get you 30 pretty consistently. So I like Dang in cash. Nowitzki, I wish he would just get the full. Oh, he's been playing full minutes. Okay, yeah. Against Atlanta, 30 minutes. Against Phoenix, 28. Nowitzki's been playing his minutes, so if he's going to play his minutes at 5,200, he's definitely in play. His upside is limited at his age. He hasn't done much, so I'd like to see him get going first. But for a GPP, we know Nowitzki's capable of scoring at will. So if Barnes can't score, if Matthews can't score, if Duran can't score, or Darren, whatever, they might need Nowitzki to take some shots. So I still don't trust him. I won't be playing him in cash or GPPs. I'm sorry, I just won't. I just don't see the upside. I think his name is the only reason he's priced at 52. So I'm off of him. But if you want him, I'm not going to tell you it's a horrible play. I'm not. I don't think I can. Finally, center Karl Anthony Towns, the only center I want in this game. Andrew Bogut is back from injury, so that makes things rough. He's obviously a much better rim protector than other guys, but I don't want Bogut, don't get me wrong. I definitely don't want him. But it does, him being back, if he wasn't back, I think Towns would have been a phenomenal spot. But with him back, it makes Towns' spot a little rough. Towns can still hit those threes and all that, so he's still in play. In my opinion, definitely at 9,200, GPP only. I wouldn't trust him in cash in this matchup. But that is going to do it for us here at WiseTake. I hope you enjoyed the podcast. Please subscribe on YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. If you're watching through Podbean, give us a follow over there. You can contact me on Twitter if you have any questions or you want to just have a conversation. It's at CK_013. The WiseTake Twitter at Wise_take. Go ahead and sign up at WiseTake.com. It's free to be a member. Join up. You can get access to our free projections. Our forum is free. You can go on there. We can talk all day. So if you enjoy what we're doing here, if you appreciate what we're doing here, I appreciate you listening. But if you appreciate what we're doing, show us. Go ahead, go to the site. Be supportive. Let's do this. We're trying to, I enjoy making these podcasts for you. I enjoy hearing some feedback. So anyway, that's going to do it for me. We'll catch you guys here tomorrow. And good luck and be careful on this small 3-game slate. Yeah.